Alrighty, what is up guys? Evan Aldo here. Welcome back. Appreciate you guys. Leave a like if you enjoy the content. I want to talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, a few other things as you can see. You can't see up here. But I want to talk about the DXY, gold, silver too. I haven't talked about that in a pre-recorded video in a while, so let's get into it. So first thing we want to look at here is the weekly in terms of money flow, and we could kind of compare it to how we were over here. And if you look at this, we had one more kind of jump up, one more significant jump up from 9,000 all the way to wicking up to almost 14K here, I believe, back in 2019. And this is looking a lot like 2023 so far is looking in some ways, it's not as long yet, but a lot like 2019 in those ways. So if it does play out like that, we would probably, and that's a technical target too, I believe, right around 40K would probably be the highest you could pump up from these kind of double spiral lines over here, I think. And, when would that happen? Probably in let's see how long it took over here. That was May to July. Yeah, the next month or so, potentially. That's the best case scenario. Now, you have everyone and their brother talking about on Twitter how Bitcoin's going to, I don't know if they're joking, Bitcoin's going to $1 million in 90 days. That kind of brings the odds down a little bit. And that's kind of like usually when you see like big predictions like that, that's when you usually do have a pullback. The other thing we could look at here, I'm not saying you're definitely going to have a pullback, but that's, it does make you a little hesitant. The other thing here is if we look at these RSIs, in terms of like the wave here, there's room for more upside, definitely. There's room to cross into the green as well. But if you look at right here, your RSI is like, see the level we're at right here and the level we were at back here. So you did have one more jump up. That's the case for one more jump up. However, as you guys probably know, history rhymes. It doesn't always repeat. There could be a curveball here. If you look at kind of the green dot there, you did come up higher. So if it's like this, you will come up higher. But if it's like these green dots, you could have somewhat of a pullback here. That's absolutely possible. Now, the fundamentals are, I've thought about this a lot. It takes a little bit of time to kind of digest and, analyze and think about what happened with banks going down. Obviously, no one was really expecting that. Too much, at least I wasn't. And you're kind of thinking about that because a lot of this rally, at least from kind of back here, obviously when SVB went down, this leg up, a lot of that was driven by people trying to get out of banks, getting into other assets. That's the reason why gold and silver have been coming up as well. So, we got to take those things into account. Now, if we look at some of the other time frames here, let's look at the, I want to just look for a second at the 2-week. Because this was a curve. This threw us a curveball. Like, this is one of your things where history just didn't repeat too well, and I could take my word for it. I don't want to waste your time and get up a new chart, but over here, the same thing happened back in 2015, and it wasn't like a lower low that it brought in 2015 back here. The Coinbase chart just doesn't have enough data for it, but you had your little trigger wave that could have formed similar to the pandemic. And it created a pretty big drop down. This was the curveball. It didn't play out like that. Now, could this still curve back down and give us a blood diamond? I think it's a little bit high where it probably wouldn't form a blood diamond unless you kind of start coming straight down. Unless, 28, maybe we could come up a little bit higher tomorrow. But unless you start to really start coming down quickly, you're probably not going to get a blood diamond here. But it is possible, with everybody posting about, most of the bears have gone into hibernation. Most of the bears are quiet. Most of the bears are capitulating. Some people will never, there are perma bears out there, but yeah. And you're also hitting a double spiral line, a logarithmic spiral lines, which is going to be a strong area. It would make sense, even if you're not done with this rally, to come back to, maybe this spiral line pocket, 2540 or 200 weekly moving average. That's where it is. That would make a lot of sense, a pullback to test that area. And then, this would the daily is kind of the time frame that's going to really entertain that, really give the case for that. This is coming down. Now you're back in the red. So, this is kind of one-on-one market cipher, good curvature, view up, coming down with the money flow crossover. The same thing was kind of happening back here, and you just had another jump up. But the thing you could look at there to kind of avoid those traps sometimes, one, I did make a video back here talking about, the potential with the split RSIs here. That's one way to kind of avoid the traps, be a little bit patient, how we could jump up. I didn't think we'd come up to, this high, obviously. I don't think too many people really, some people obviously predicted it, but, It's hard. But I thought 22, 22K would be a big area reject from that and continue lower. That was my thought. I was wrong. Oh well. You're not going to be right 100% of the time. And in Mark Douglas's book, Trading in the Zone, he talks about how you don't need to know what's going to happen to make money. It's all a game of probability and risk management. So there's that. You do have, I believe, if you look at the 12-hour, you do have a bearish div that is confirmed. So we're getting some serious signs here. And also, if you look at the 4-hour, it doesn't always work. It didn't work, well, we got to go back quite a bit where, back here during kind of this rally, upward money flow was kind of starting to come down. It didn't really work even here, money flow coming down. Bearish divs just came up more. But here worked pretty well, money flow coming out, and you're confirming bearish divs, starting to get bearish divs. Same thing here, from here to, this one, this to these, bearish div, money flow starting to come down. So you're getting there. I think you're getting close to it. The Fed meeting is on Wednesday. I think that may, if they sound really hawkish, that probably would bring us down. That probably would bring us down. If they're raising 25 basis points, probably would raise us down. I mean, there's never going to be 100% here, but that probably would bring us down at least, I would say you'd probably come down at least back to 26, 25 here from that. You do have money flow coming into the red on the hourly. And what I'm kind of really looking at here, and I've talked about it more. I'll talk about it more and kind of give a trade signal. Never financial advice, but I give trade signals in my exclusive Discord and some exclusive TA there on when I'm taking trades. I'm not right 100% of the time, but I think it is a really good community. If you guys are interested, link in description below. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. Also, there is a trading competition. I think it ends in really soon, like a few hours for MEXC. Kind of late to sign up right now. But if you do sign up to want to trade, sign up to any exchanges down below and deposit at least $100, I will give you 1 free month of my exclusive Discord. Just shoot me a DM on Discord with your UID or tag me in a channel there. And with your UID, just tell me you signed up and I will get you sorted out. So yeah. And then we're looking at the 90-minute. I'm really looking at this money flow crossover. I mean, we have the trigger wave here. You could try to enter here. I would probably be lenient with the stop loss. This would be a bet that you're kind of topped out. You're not getting the 30K. But I do think the market could potentially throw us a few more curveballs. And the thing that you want to look at here is, I'm not seeing it yet in the 2-hour, but sometimes these trigger waves, 2 trigger waves here, you may get another trigger wave in the hourly. Sometimes these will give you some more wicks up. Sometimes towards the end of rallies, these will give you more wicks up. So that's what I'm looking at right there. If we move on to Ethereum here, you're kind of still in this general wedge. I kind of drew this out. A little bit subjective. I guess it's probably better to draw it like that. You've been consolidating for a while, in other words. I mean, you're at the same price you were back in May of 2022. So about a year here. A lot of it looks kind of similar to Bitcoin. We already got the red dot in the daily. That does not look too good. We're testing this area. Right now, we're testing this area right now, which is a pretty decent, it's a pretty significant fib level. If we lose this, that's going to be pretty bearish. Bearish div right there on the 12-hour. And then money flow, look at, these have been pretty good, though. At least that money flow crossover into the green, or that one, to come down. So that could be a pretty decent drop down back to the 1500 range, which I think would make some sense here. But you absolutely, I wouldn't be going short just yet because we're hitting kind of this area. Is this no, this isn't, I don't think this is any, it could be, this could be potentially a hidden bullish div, I believe. That's a hidden bullish div, so maybe that could bring us up a little bit in the short term, which would make sense, obviously. Decent area right here. The same thing, I'm kind of looking for this 90-minute. You got the split RSIs coming up here with the green dots, so that could be the catalyst to one more jump up, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow up to 19, who knows. So that's what I'm looking at right there. Let's look at Litecoin because that's been significant with the year of the halvening and whatnot. So obviously if history repeats itself, which it has a lot here, look at that history repeating. You came down, now you're coming back up just like there. The thing is, you got the red X, which that was kind of a good indication you were done back here. So it could be different this time. I don't know. I'm not a Litecoin expert. I'm not really that big a fan of the project, to tell you the truth. But what I will say, hit a big point, double blood diamonds on the daily. I would be taking profits or potentially looking to short this. This could be, I don't know, I feel like this could be a decent short once this confirms here. Again, I'm not an expert on Litecoin. Maybe with the fundamentals happening, we could come up higher like here, but I kind of think it's not going to be as good, and we're just going to see a general trajectory kind of downward. And again, I don't think we may not go down this low to make another low, but I think there's a good shot we'll at least test the 2022 lows at some point here, going back to 50. So that's what I'm looking at. Bitcoin dominance continues to absolutely explode, as I've been predicting for a while. That's one thing, one of the things I've gotten right, and right there, hitting that point. So it would make sense to start to consolidate. It's going to be really momentous if we just break through this area. I think we might be able to, looking at the way things are going. And fun fact, as soon as we finally see a significant pullback for crypto in this type of environment, I think alts are really going to get destroyed. I mean, if you look at alts, a lot of them, let's just look at let's say Solana. You haven't even gotten above your, Bitcoin's at 28K or 27K right now, and this hasn't even gotten above its February 20th high at $27. You know what I mean? These are left in the dust of Bitcoin. You know what I mean? These are just like, if you sold up here, you still would be good. You know what I mean? You're still not like in a missing out type area. And I think like I feel like a lot of retail, like they probably bought a lot of the altcoins at these highs potentially. And maybe we could go up higher and Bitcoin goes to 40K, but I still think these are really going to bleed against Bitcoin. So that's the way kind of retail could lose in this, I feel like. Also, you look at ETH Bitcoin, I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but blood diamonds, like nothing looks good here. I think ultimately, if things get really ugly, ETH would probably have to make a lower low, end up well below 1,000 for this, I think. But 52% down against Bitcoin, it definitely is possible with regulatory FUD. And just, I don't see any time frame that looks good in this. Look at that 10-day curvature there, general downward. If you repeat kind of this trajectory, I'm sure it'll throw us some curveballs on the way down, but that's kind of how I map that out, that trajectory. Let's look at the Dixie a little bit. So this is interesting right here. So this looks probably as bad as possible on the 3-day. Weekly looks kind of bad overall. I'd say money flow generally coming out. Blood diamond. That confirms. They're not always. Some of the blood diamonds down here, look what happened there. That was a good buy signal right there in 08. But this was, this was coming up. That was absolutely starting to come up there. That was a little bit different. This kind of just looks bad with the money flow crossover. But back here, you did come up higher. So it's hard to say with the DXY right now. It depends kind of how the Fed sounds. I think if they're able to, if they keep raising rates for months to come, and they don't have to bail out any more banks, and there's, and economically things kind of get worse, more layoffs, and bad news kind of just starts to become bad news, and we enter a recession, I think this will generally come up. A lot of yellow X's here. Looks like a good trend reversal, money flow coming up. So I do think you're kind of getting to the end of the Bitcoin rally. If you could get a jump off of this, if you absolutely could get a jump off of this, I think you're getting towards the end of the rally. However, technicals on this are definitely not the most bullish. Well, 2-week, 2-week trigger wave, 3-week coming up with the VWAP. So, technicals on this I would say are kind of neutral right now, but I do think, I still think we could have a good, come into a recession, a good trajectory upward to around 128 here. That's my kind of guess. The last thing I want to talk about is gold and silver, because I think we ought to definitely talk about these. I think it's going to be a similar kind of bull run like we saw from kind of, like we see typically in recessions with gold and silver, like what we saw in 01 to a certain extent, what we saw in 08, just a little bit different. It's always going to be a little bit different, but out of this kind of big cup and handle, your technical target is at 3,500. I think you could get up to around 2,900, 3,000 in the next few years, maybe sometime in 2025. I think you're going to be on a general trajectory upward, potentially similar to kind of, back here. I don't think it's going to be as good as this decade, because you do have Bitcoin, people are going to buy other stuff, and I think obviously long term Bitcoin's going to outperform this, but you could have like maybe half of this or something, maybe some trajectory like this. I don't know if it's going to be that high up. 5,000 is a lot, but potentially you could hit that by the end of the decade. I think potentially you could hit that. Is anyone going to get rich with a $5,000 with $5,000 an ounce of gold? Probably not. That's only really a 2.5x, so probably not. But it still is a really safe haven right now, I would say. And the other thing that we could talk about, gold. Let's just look at gold SPX, because obviously you want to outperform the S&P 500. Look right here on the monthly. Bam. big jump up. If we go back to, last time was that before 1970s, bam, big jump up. So I think it's going to do very well against S&P 500. I think you could, potentially double you might in the next decade, you probably could at least double your SPY shares potentially. Keep in mind you'd be missing out on compound interest though. This isn't financial advice. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know, but this is what it looks like will happen. If you look at silver, kind of lagging behind gold right now, but I think that if history kind of repeats itself here, it probably will outperform gold. It's kind of like Bitcoin versus ETH. ETH is going to have more risk, but it probably will long-term outperform it. Outperform Bitcoin. Charts on this kind of neutral now, but yeah, this looks a little worse than kind of gold. But money flow coming up, I think there's some good things to look at here. I do think it's going to do pretty well. The last thing I want to show you guys that I've been kind of looking at a little bit curious, gold, Bitcoin, because let's just see here. So I think what I wanted to show you guys on the monthly. So every time pretty much you get a red dot here is a good buy for Bitcoin against gold. Blood diamond, that was pretty good. That was a good indication of the bull run right there. It was a good indication on market side for blood diamond right there in the monthly. You're getting the blood diamond here. Money flow is in the green that you're coming up. So I think one of two things is going to happen. I think if Bitcoin rallies up to 40K, this is going to continue downward, kind of this trajectory, and you're going to kind of hit this area again in the next few months potentially. Or Bitcoin has a correction, maybe back down to 25, maybe back down to 20, who knows. This starts to come up because gold stays more stagnant, doesn't correct as much, and this comes up to this area. And I think that's where gold could kind of top out against Bitcoin towards the end of the year, and that's where maybe a good conversion from gold to Bitcoin would be. That's what I'm looking at. So yeah, guys, that's all I got right now. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Check out the links down below. Check out my exclusive Discord, good community in there. Check out the exchanges, all really good exchanges. MEXC is really good. Zero limit fees. You don't need to use a VPN. And I mentioned before about the if you deposit at least $100 on actually any exchanges, I will give you one free month in my exclusive Discord. Just shoot me a DM on Discord with your information, your UID, and I'll get it sorted out. All right, have a good one, guys. Goodbye.